Have you ever been playing a match of Melee? You're winning, you're feeling good, you're up 3 stocks to 1, and then suddenly... in a blur, you lost. What happened? How did you throw that game? In the most strict sense, I would define throwing a game as a game where you had a clear, significant advantage and then lost anyway. Depending on your skill level, of course, I think throwing a game means different things. I have different expectations of plup than I do of someone who's going 2-2 at their local, right? So I feel like it's not totally fair to say, oh, anytime you lost a lead, you threw. A funny story about this, I think there was maybe a Genesis or a Big House where Plup and Hungrybox were playing very far into the tournament, semis or winners finals, and Justin Wong was live tweeting his reactions throughout the tournament. And he said something along the lines of, why did Plup go for that YOLO up smash when he could have just lamed it out with lasers? You know, as you'd expect from fighting game legend Justin Wong talking about Melee, people started talking, commenting, and I think even Armada and some other figureheads responded, and they were like, hey, you know, it's not that simple, and there were some disagreements about it. At the end of the day, though, it's a really good question. Did Plup throw there? And I think a big thing to consider here that's interesting is how someone who doesn't even play the game might still have a sense for that. In this case, if we watch the clip, I mean, I completely agree with Justin. Plup definitely kind of threw for a hopeful up smash when he could have just continued to play his game. Because at the end of the day, Justin was right. Plup could have played it more solid. And if you guys don't know, Justin Wong is maybe the king of laming it out when he has that lead. He's been doing it for years. So I think if anyone has an eye for when you could do something like that, it would be him.
You're gonna learn today.
No, you're not. You're using a cheat mode.
Funnily enough, I think that's actually pretty common. I feel like it's anytime someone makes a comeback on someone else, there's this idea from the person who lost, like, oh, I threw that game. And sometimes you just got outplayed, sometimes you threw, and I think it's pretty important to be able to tell the difference. This is where it matters, what decisions you made to throw the game. If I were to talk about how games are thrown, generally speaking, not in terms of specific decisions, I feel like the first thing that comes to mind is dropping guaranteed situations. And this is where I relate back to my point about skill levels, because of course, just because an edge guard or a combo is guaranteed doesn't mean it's guaranteed at your skill level, in the sense that maybe I'd expect Plup to hit this up throw up air every time, but maybe it's not reasonable for me to expect you to do that. But in some sense, it's still quote unquote a throw because you had something guaranteed and you didn't execute on it. That said, if we were to be, we're all on Twitch chat, we're watching semifinals of a big tournament, and let's say the Fox has an up throw up air and he messes it up and accidentally jumps off the stage because he flubs his input and then gets edge guarded by the Marth, we would say, oh, he threw. And in some sense, that's the jumping off the stage, but in another sense, it would just be that he flipped the combo.
Come on!
The second thing that comes to mind has to do with the game plan. And again, if we think about how this relates to skill levels, lower level players might not even have a consistent enough game plan. And maybe that's part of the problem, that possibly you just got your lead through sheer happenstance and then also threw your lead through sheer happenstance. For example, when a Marth runs up and tries to F-smash to catch someone dash dancing in the corner, if the Fox shields it, maybe the Marth gets back their shine. Alternatively, if he actually correctly reads the dash dance or maybe the dash back, that F smash hits, he gets an edge guard, and suddenly he's up a stock. So the problem with this isn't that you're not necessarily earning your leads, because you are making the outplays, the right reads, but it's just that they are very high volatility reads by nature. Of course, this is just a part of the game, but if your game plan revolves around such things, it's going to feel like you're constantly getting leads and throwing and having no idea why. I feel like throwing the game at the ledge is the most common in Melee because it's the easiest place to suddenly die. But you could even throw in the middle of the stage by playing in a way that's bad risk reward, for example, where you go for a spot dodge that was a bit greedy when maybe you could have buffered a roll away from the opponent and it was a lot harder to call out. So in terms of the risk reward on spot dodge versus roll, I think a really easy matchup to give an example of could be maybe Falco Peach, where Peach is often too slow, literally, to even have a chance to cover a roll away, but the spot dodge maybe gives Falco a higher chance to get a reward. What I mean by risk reward in a situation like the spot dodge situation is that if you spot dodge and it works out for you, you will get a shine or a down tilt or something, which could be very high reward, but the risk is that you get dash attacked or grabbed. While if you roll away, it is impossible for you to get a reward maybe, but also it is literally impossible for Peach to catch you. Maybe you'll be at some slight frame disadvantage, and that's the risk. So when I say consider the risk reward, that's really what I mean. It's just what is the good that could happen, what is the bad that could happen, what is the likelihood of either of those things happening. Sometimes there's a probability or mix-up, and how do you take that into account? You could just lose the game off of getting grabbed on FD in Falco Peach. So if you don't have that presence of mind or have that as a part of your game plan, you might make the mistake of spot dodging and then you get grabbed or dash attack. And I often hear people go, wow, what a great read. And in my mind, as the more experienced player, I often think, oh, that's funny because that's not even a read that should really be on the table, because the Falco should know that there is no hope for Peach to hit him if he just runs away in that situation. But if you're kind of just making each decision willy-nilly and it doesn't fit into an overarching game plan, well, of course it might happen. You might get a lead, you might lose a lead, and it's all kind of random.
That was really sick. Do something random. Oh, that was random. That's what I was about to say. Do something random.
The idea that the game plan needs to be specific is absolutely very important. People throw on respawn so much. Smash is a game where every single stock there's a mechanic where when your opponent dies, they come back invincible, or when you die, you come back invincible. That is literally the moment where you cannot be hit if you're invincible, or it is the moment where your opponent cannot be hit. So it is so, I can't emphasize enough, so important to play that well. And I actually think this is one of the most common ways games are thrown. Even for me, I sit down, I haven't played Melee in a while, my opponent respawns and they do the classic, we've all seen it, they just fall down with a bear and I miss space and run straight into it. What if I just didn't get hit by that and I escaped? My opponent then, who is at 0, has to fight me at 80, and they're kind of worried because if I land one more combo starter, maybe I drop another 50 damage on them. It gets so hard to win. And oftentimes when you watch these high-level players play these lower-level players, the lower-level player actually does great for the first stock, and then they barely lose it. They chase on respawn, that's the most common issue. You chase and overextend as your invul runs out, and then you get 0 to death again. Then you're down 4 stocks to 2, and you just have no hope of winning, even if you played great. And I would say when you're invincible, generally you need to know your timer well. That's point number 1, how long you're invincible for. And then 2, you need to recognize, okay, you generally get maybe one opportunity to hit your opponent. And if that opportunity fails, you need to decide, do I want to take the risk to try to hit them one more time, or do I just want to hold my position? And that's why I personally have tactics like, let's say it's FD and I'm Fox. One of my favorite things to do is to run up to them and do a shine at the timing that would only hit if they run through me, and then I'll wave dash in place. And that way I guarantee that either they ran into me and got hit, or they're stuck in the corner. And sure, that doesn't hit them if they stay in the corner, but it creates a very concrete way of me not overextending and forcing them into a bad position. And then maybe occasionally I'll run up and run all the way into the corner and try to hit them. Conversely, if we were to take the flip side, okay, my opponent's invincible, what are my goals? It's the flip side. You're trying to catch them overextending and putting themselves in a bad position. And the best ways to do this are generally to use platforms, to go to the ledge, and just understanding where kind of the mix-up points are. So for example, as I run towards someone, they kind of have to guess, am I running past them? Am I running the other way? Or maybe you need to consider what side of the stage I'm going to respawn. All of these things are how you play the respawn well. And I think, again, games where you have leads, I guarantee you are throwing because when your opponent is invincible, you didn't avoid them well, which didn't give you the opportunity to continue to outplay them and push your advantage. Or conversely, when you were invincible and it was your chance to come back into the game, or maybe to secure the advantage that already exists, you overextended and immediately got hit and then lost your lead. Thank you so much for watching. This is Drug Fox. I hope you enjoyed the video and hope it helped you learn some things about why you're throwing games. We're trying a new style of SSBM tutorial videos, so please, if you have any feedback, leave it in the comments below and we'll consider it all as we put out future videos. If you like this type of content and want more, make sure to subscribe to this channel.